powerfully put, Carol, as only you could. Absolutely. You were very, very kind to come on board to the film Mercy, which I wrote and directed as producer, as executive producer. And I thank you as ever.
So proud to have been asked, Wendy, and so pleased to have been on board.
Thank you. What made you want to come on board to this project?
Primarily you and your invitation, you know, your heritage, your reputation. So good to know you. Yeah, so good to know you and for us to be part of each other's life. And then seeing some of the movie and realizing that something that's been very high on my agenda since I was a child, and have done, you know, my teeny itsy bitsy bit towards change, that I could be part of that, part of something which involved like-minded people at a time when, well, there seems to be some sort of zeitgeist going on, in terms of illumination about the connections, not only animal sentience, but the planet. And although I've been a vegetarian since 1973 and a vegan for about 6 or 7 years, certainly when I started, it was scorned at. I mean, you know, one was the vitriol one received from people because you were different. And what's happened now, I think, is that because people have become more aware of the whole planetary, the climate issues politically, it's made being a vegetarian, nay, vegan, much more pertinent to the whole subject, so that no longer are you being accused of being over sentimental and over emotional and a bit bonkers, but actually politically we've got a place now and it's being scientifically proven, so you can't be cast out as an over emotional, you know, nincompoop. You've got to be listened to. So yeah. So that was why suddenly be on board with something which helps, you know, the momentum of the whole thing along was great. It was great.
Thank you. That's amazing. For anyone who doesn't know, Mercy is the story of a factory the life and death of a factory farmed pig. And
absolutely, and it's beautifully written. It's a piece of art, actually, which makes it so much more accessible, because it's not just a documentary from which certain people, particularly those who don't want to look, who find it too painful or distasteful to look at, makes it much more accessible to the audience, because it's beautifully written, beautifully shot, beautifully performed by Maria Austin and yourself and all the other great cast members. And the music is great, and so it just gets its point across in the best possible way.
And we were very lucky, weren't we, to have Viva, Compassion in World Farming, Animal Aid, to name but a few, to offer their footage and support.
Yes.
And of course,
isn't it, working together, everybody working together, all the charities uniting, you know, rather like you might like the political parties to do that sometimes. That's the way to move forward, is to have a mutual understanding and respect for one another, so that you can come together as a family and push the momentum along more speedily.
I mean, yes, exactly. Just during the lockdown, we did a little filming. My friend filming far away and me directing, and then some voiceovers came in that were written by Juliette Galatly and Philip Limbury, connecting factory farming conditions with zoonotic diseases. So that was very pertinent and has linked the film a little more closely with current situation, which perhaps.
Yeah, and those additions have been perfect, really perfect, because that's no mean thing to have lived through this period. And in fact, I think it gives more power, definitely more power to the movie, because now it's not just about that situation. It's about this situation as well. It's about the whole thing. And people might imagine that this has arrived from abroad and from places who have such things as wet markets. But of course, the additions to the movie have made it plain that it is to do with the unsanitary situations in abattoirs all over the world. So none of us escape from being the culprits in the perpetuation of disease, frankly. Not only the immoral attitude towards sentient creatures and our attitude towards them, but the perpetuation that we inspire towards the continuation of disease.
And also in the factory farms with the conditions there and antibiotic resistance.
Yeah, all cramped in like that, and the antibiotic thing is just abhorrent. And everybody, we've been told, haven't we, of late, this last year or two, that we have to be very, very conservative about the antibiotics that we take. Our doctors have all pulled back greatly about the antibiotics that we are prescribed, and quite rightly too. But what people haven't really talked about very much on the news is that one of the main reasons for our inability to have the resistance of us to antibiotics is because of the massive doses that they're all given to take away bacteria in slaughterhouses and so on, just given to them with their food every day. Millions and billions and trillions of pills given to our food. Well, so their food.
Which we are consuming. Well, not we, because we're vegan, but which we are consuming. And also the film, exactly. It looks not just from the animals' point of views, but from the slaughtermen point of view.
Yeah, you see them as victims as well. And I think that there will be those hard-hearted people who find it absolutely fine to do such jobs, just as there are those people who find it fine to hunt and kill and put dogs in the ring to fight, bulls in the ring to fight. There are those people who seem to be immune to that kind of suffering. But there are also those people who are not, and who are forced into doing a job like that, perhaps because there was nothing else. And that is an important part of your film, because it shows that actually, in the nth degree, everybody turns out to be a victim. Everybody and every creature is a victim.
Yeah. I play Jeannie, a lady who isn't aware. I don't want to give too much away, but there are connections made where there weren't before, which are, as you said before, once one makes these connections, it's very uncomfortable to do that.
And you see, the more connections you make, when you make one connection, it's like I stopped eating meat because I saw a load of calves being shot between the eyes and put on a big old heap during a period in 1973 of beef and butter mountains. And I thought that was that. I never ate meat again. And actually what I was doing was I was stopping eating meat. That was where it started. I stopped eating meat. But as soon as you do something like that, all these other vistas open up to you, and you become aware of vivisection, and you become aware of hunting. It's enormous. Suddenly, you can't ever just do one little thing. It's like learning and research, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're researching, let's say, for a part that you're playing, And you go, well, let me have a little look at that. And you open it up and you go, and then you go, oh, and what's that mean? And I better have a little look at that. And I go to the first day of rehearsals because I'm slightly dyslexic. So I've not got a great short-term memory. So I have all my books with me because I'm not very good at looking at reading a whole chapter and retaining everything in it. So I kind of go to the first day of rehearsals. So I'm going to the first day of university. I have all my stuff because education and research leads one thing to another. So that's that adage, you know, that ignorance is bliss, because it really is. As soon as you start to learn, that bliss just goes. You learn and learn.
Who are you patron for at the moment? I know are you patron for a lot of charities right now? You're so busy.
Animal Aid, Animal Free Research UK, Friends of the Animals in the Isle of Wight, and Safer Medicines. And I've been patron of all of those charities. Well, Animal Aid for, oh my gosh, I mean, 35 years or something crazy, probably longer, actually. And the others all many, many years. And I knew Juliette Galatly, you know, years before she was with a specific charity, or certainly before she had instigated Viva. She did quite a few bits of journalism. I remember her interviewing me here in this house, actually, for something or another. And I'd go to rallies of hers in Trafalgar Square. So, and I'm affiliated to many more, like Compassion and Respect for Animals, you know, numerous others as well.
We could talk forever about those. I mean, animal testing is quite a prominent subject at the moment, isn't it?
It is. And, you know, I was working in my small way towards trying to broadcast what vivisection was all about. And I was the face of Beauty Without Cruelty in the days when that was the only makeup organization that didn't use animals. And what, of course, people don't realize, or what they don't sort of sew the pieces together and see, that although we are incredibly similar to animals, we're not so similar that to test on them gives you any conclusive evidence that the drug will be fine for us. For example, you know, as we all know now, you can give mountains of prussic acid to a rat and it'll be fine, where that same amount will kill an army of people. Parsley is poison to a parrot. Pumpkin makes a horse seriously agitated. Digitalis was kept off the market for decades because although it's fantastic for hearts in human beings, it created incredibly negative results in dogs. And the list just goes on and on and on. It's, you know, and people would say, yes, but we've learned so much. And I would say, well, yeah, but if you're doing that many tests on animals, you're bound to gain a few pieces of relevant and interesting information. But the point now is, keep the information you've got and you've learned. And now we're in this period with the facility to test on human cells. I mean, that I think is probably what's happening with this potential, if it ever happens, if indeed it's viable at all medically and scientifically. That is what is happening with this vaccination. I would imagine that the normal course of events with a vaccination takes years, maybe even decades to make it safe. You're constantly hearing, we're pushing this through. What does that mean? It means they are eliminating elements of the normal trials, which is all about making money.